And this would fix a lot of problems, and that's all we would need. That would be good. And I would be happy with that. I would be content with a negative bottle cap. At least throw that in, and that wouldn't be that hard to program. Because you already have a bottle cap that fakes a 31.
What was the one I had to go to?
Prior to In the Plot, the other classroom gets you the flying, and the clubhouse gets you the clubhouse. But this is the remaining plot point here. Then you can unlock the flying. And
like, the funny thing is, because you call it Thropogos and shit, something else I wanted to bring, which I can't remember if I said this in, like, the other recording or not, because it is a somewhat interesting, like, observation, was this, taking place in a Unova and shit, and people thinking that hints at, like, a Unova a remake and shit, as I feel like you could, on some level, maybe sort of connect the terrestrial phenomenon to the type gems from Black and White, because the stellar form gives a temporary one-time 50% buff to any type, basically effectively giving you, if you have, 4 different types of moves, 4 gems in, like, one effect, and because, those are gems, those are crystals. I don't remember if I pointed that out or not, because that feels like the type of thing, like, it feels like the type of observation other people would make, because it's the funny thing. Well, it was, Area Zero, so it was in Paldea. Again, it's like we go and get this here, of, like, all places. Especially because of the whole, like, Chargestone Cavern and
this unlocks the unlimited flight.
Especially with the whole Chargestone Cavern and shit, even though, while I feel like the Chargestone Cavern thing is just because it's copying things habitats, and, Joltik is there, so they had to copy the habitat. Something interesting, and I didn't, because of how fucking long it's been since I played Black and White, I didn't realize this. The Black and White connections go even deeper. The trainer battle music is the trainer music from Black and White.
Yeah, I know.
It is not even a remix.
It's just the music, yes.
It is straight out the original. And there's a bunch of, like, musical references to Black and White in here, alongside a bunch of other references, so it's like they are laying it on thick.
Yeah.
Really damn thick.
That unlocks the true flight.
Yeah. You can do that true flight anywhere, right? Or can
yes.
Okay, good.
You can do it anywhere.
Good.
Anywhere you can glide. It is 100% true free flight. Forever. But you have to get it in the post-game, which I think is fine.
No, there are all the connections to Black and White. I find it funny that his scarf looks like the Haunted scarf. Oh, but at the same time, that's, again, I don't remember if I said this in the other one. I get the idea and shit, but that's one of those. I don't care if it's just made to look like it. I wouldn't trust that, because if you read that Pokédex description, it talks about how the, like, scarf will wrap
around a person and suck out their life force.
Yeah, like, will wrap around their arm and suck out their life force. Huh. everything. Where's the...
What?
Door.
Yes.
It's going to look at Tropico stats to see if they're fixed or not, and then, you know, just stop.
You go get the one thing in your game.
Oh yeah, that too.
Then we could stop. That's about what? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think they are fixed. So everything is a 31 except the
attack is
and
a
it seems to be fixed, I believe, to be a neutral nature.
Yes.
Weird. Fucking weird. Why? Why would you do this? Hell. Oh, you're all terrible.
Moving on. Get the one thing and we can stop this Let's Play for the most part, other than miscellaneous updates, because some things will be updated.
And ironically never, like, getting a bunch of other legendaries and shit.
We can do some cleanup at some other... My problem with Ivies, because of so many things that I wanted to get that needed a 0 speed or a 0 attack or something.
Even though we're at a point where a lot of people will say those things don't actually need those.
Except if you are being semantic.
At least for... I don't want to go on this argument again. At least for Okidogi, not Okidogi, at least for Monkidori, I went and looked at it. The funny thing is, if it's being hit by something with foul play that that has stab on it, because of it having stab and that thing's physical defense being so terrible, if you do not Terra into a type that resists dark, it is basically always a 2-shot. It doesn't actually matter. But it has to be stab dark. Non-stab dark changes it.
Stab adds the extra damage. Hello, you beautiful piece of man.
It's probably because it's purple and it's harder to notice, but his costume doesn't look as faded. Oh, give me that. Okay, so. And who are you? Professor? What? This Pokémon, it's the Iron Serpent. We call it Miraidon. Is that so? Its name is Miraidon. That's you know, an interesting detail. Was them referring to the paradox classification names? That would mean this is a Sada and Turo that basically is like before they built the time machine and shit.
You can figure that out, and people estimate this is a Sada and Turo from 10 years ago.
Well, that's why I also brought up in the case of Sada, her like costume looking slightly different. Turo, I think his costume is also darker, but again, with it being, you know, purple, it's harder to notice. Alright, this must be the future. But that is, you know, something interesting. Of it's like, basically, he said from his perspective, it seems like it's the future, going to the whole, it seems to be the them from 10 years in the past.
Yeah.
Also, occurring in a timeline connected to my own. Perhaps this meeting is nothing more than a fleeting miracle. Oh, why don't we as much useful data as we can, and why and well, I'm hanging again.
The nonsense at play here.
And you like that? Are you here? Why are you here? Don't particularly know the analyzing some data I secretly at one moment, and actually are standing here before you. Perhaps this is the influence of the crystal Pokémon that lies dormant in that place. Just throws out the turtle.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I make a joke about that, but that is funny. That it's like I'm amazed they don't do something like that where it is like Terapagos does just show up, unless having Terapagos with you will actually prompt.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're trying to keep this vague. Because people are still unsure what the fuck is going on here.
Well, even then, was it because they were, studying it?
Yeah.
If Terapagos was written in the book and you threw that thing out, they could have is this the Pokémon written in that journal? You could just have something like that be there. Researchers get Pokémon that live in different timelines. Teleport them to present day in my own timeline. It's fantastic. But I am on.
Yeah, there isn't.
You know we both have sinus problems.
Yeah. Yes.
Drift. No, not drifting. Drafting.
Drafting is the word you're.
Yes,
we both have.
I started dying because
we both have horrible sinus problems. I'm aware of this. I do this same.
I thought I was about to have to say that you're going to have to cut while I go spit up snot, but nothing actually happened.
We're both doing that.
Drafting plans now for machine achievement. You see this book in my imagination when I read as a child, and I've never let it go. Also, I know it's a detail on both, but the fucking legendary is on that.
Yes.
Like, the entire point here is the inconsistencies. Everything is supposed to be an inconsistency and a fucking contradiction.
Yes. Beset.
Yeah, beset. I haven't left my lab in quite some time now. I definitely hope that I may glean some new insight from this conversation, so I can finally make some progress and return home. Is there anything? What about your family? Oh yeah, I have a daughter back home. Just again, I imagine shit like that. He says something, but it throws everything else off. I kind of wish they had done a detail like that to make people further question this.
Do I have a
family? I do. I have a son. He's probably at home. I was right. Whenever and where. As I imagine he must be quite lonely. Though something, if this is a them from 10 years in the future, if this is them from like 10 years in the past, and therefore before they went crazy and built the machine and shit, this is quite interesting because when you ask about family, they both say they have a son because it's 10 years in the past. They don't say anything about the other one. He doesn't say like I had a son and wife.
Mm-hmm.
Which, that leaves even more fucking questions.
This whole thing is supposed to be confusing.
That's my point, is like, the more you dig into it, the more confusing it ends up. Now, let's trade. Say the time is come for my own questions. What is this? Place doesn't appear to be anywhere in Pala. Well, damn. Which one did you specify?
I did Land of Kitakami, but
I guess let's actually do Crystal Pool to. So we're at Kitakami's Crystal Pool.
Either way, it leads about.
I knew it would lead. I knew it would lead about the same. I just wanted to.
The only difference, he'll ask you about the legendary, and you can get some. If you say it's a partner, you get the lines from both professors. It's like your attachment to that thing doesn't matter to me. And then it's like, oh, that is...
I haven't shifted quite far in both time and space. My next question, then. That Pokémon, you have the Iron Serpent. I mean, tell me more about it. About the class on it. It'd be... You can write it all over the place. I don't know which one I want to use. I kind of want to use the goofy answer. I'll say the collapse on the beach.
I've seen the collapse.
And you're like,
Yeah,
I wonder
how it became.
How it happened to arrive at that beach. It appears you don't know much about the creature's exact origins yourself. Alright. That
Hidden treasure, very zero.
Would you let me see it for a moment? Underpass and a record of Tropico's awakening. Who is this?
Prior to her have written such a...
He's a teacher of mine.
School's easier. Coming into the depths.
There is zero.
Access is supposed to be limited to myself and certain members of the Pokemon League. Yeah.
At any rate.
That's a fun one.
What can I'm sorry, I simply have no time to read this book more.
I must have time to... He's commenting, but he wants time to read it. Mr. Disclosing.
Once again, I assume that means our time is near its end. It looks like it's been longer getting to know the Iron Serpent than I lost it ring. That book, I imagine it was a fun. I wouldn't feel that Clement was out offering any in exchange. Then I hate to part with something so precious to me. Would you consider trading me that book for my copy of the Violet book?
Now that both Let's Plays have happened, and like before we, I'll make a point in a minute.
Enjoy a bit of downtime with a good book. This is where I fell in Iron Serpent. How lucky we are to across time and space.
I beat you. Now to make a point, I didn't say it might think, because I wasn't sure, because people were looking into something. That his signed copy, or her signed copy in the other version, that is the book that powers the time machine. And people said apparently you can go back to the time machine, but you cannot get the book to do anything. And you were talking about people assuming there's a DLC 3. I was saving this until now. The reason people think there's a DLC 3, that book worked the time machine. Having an extra copy and creating a paradox where you have an extra key to that fucking time machine, people were like, that would mean that a true third DLC to wrap up everything would basically be you go back to the time machine, put the book in the machine, get a special bit of programming where the machine does open a portal, and then you can travel through time. And that you traveling through time.
Especially because if they did end with something like that, if you could go through time, that would then be an explanation to, depending on what the game lets you do, was that this could let you get multiple legendaries and the Hisuian Pokemon because you're literally going back in time to pluck them out of the past.
Yes.
So yeah, I guess that's that then. So, though, with that before a snub, I'm guessing, like, because you can go back into the room with the time machine and...
People said you can, but apparently the book doesn't do anything.
Does the game have, like, any weird text or
no,
anything? Oh.
That's why people are hung up on this.
Okay.
Because, let's extend this for 5 seconds. The signed copy of that book powers the time machine. And the original copy was lost when the AI went nuts. Meaning, under no circumstance should you be able to have the sort of encryption key for that time machine, which would keep the time machine from working. Meaning, and this is why people think there's a DLC 3. I'm going to explain this. Here is basically because Terapagos helped create a time paradox that got you the book. And your extra copy of that book would give you an extra encryption key, and without the AI fucking with the machine, that would give you a back door where you could come and go. And people think...
Even if there is going to be a third DLC, we still have... I have to ask the question, why does Terastal create time travel? Why can the turtle create time travel? That's still the thing I'm hung up on, even if we get more out of this. Is the why and how.
Finishing this, and then we'll do my outro. But, like, just to finish the thought. Apparently, you can't get the book to do anything. And this pisses people off because they're like, that book would be a back door to get the time machine up and running. And if you got the time machine up and running, that would mean you could, first of all, using the time machine, justify going into an area that gets you, like, peat blocks and shit. Meaning you could evolve an Ursaring into an Ursaluna by just traveling to the past, digging up the dirt, getting the items. But a lot of people also thought that in the Scarlet and Violet, that if you were jumping around, that using time travel fuckery, besides being able for both games to enter a pass to get, like, peat blocks, that you could also in both games...
That would let you finally, in a single game, jump to a different timeline to get the other game's Paradox Pokemon, and you could potentially get more legendaries out of this.
Exactly.
And if you're jumping to infinite timelines, you're getting infinite legendaries.
And this would also let you, in a single game, get at least the paradoxes.
Yeah.
And honestly, to finish this thought, that's why I wanted to say it before we ended. As people said, that would mean you paid for, you know, the DLC. You beat the main game. You beat the first DLC. You beat the second DLC. You get the paradox ending. You get some kind of update. And if you have to pay again, if it's not free, and that is an extra DLC, you have paid again. At that point, you deserve the right to be able to get every paradox Pokemon in a single fucking game.
Without trading.
Because this would also let you do something else that would sort of book in this game, which is something that a lot of people also thought would come from this.
What?
You cannot currently catch Iron Leaves or Walking Wake.
Oh yeah,
they're gone. That was an event.
Which the funny thing about that is, at the time I was recording this, I believe it's like, I think it's like 2 or 3 days before Christmas, so it's actually going to be very soon. They're actually going to rerun that event again.
Because you can't catch them in game.
Yeah.
No, I'm extending this recording for a minute to finish this ramble, because I get where people are coming from for this. That, getting the time machine working.
And another funny thing was that, because they're rerunning that event, if you have already caught them, you can't catch them again.
Yeah.
You literally only get the one.
Yeah. It would be using a time machine, because Walking Wake and Iron Leaves are still missing. And this would also let you, in Scarlet, jump to the future and get all of its Paradox Pokemon. And in Violet, jump to the past and get all of its Paradox Pokemon. While also having a jump to go to, like, basically Legends Arceus and dig up some peat blocks and shit. And people said that you could also, if you were doing this and you were jumping around and it was semi-unique maps, that this would basically sort of complete the game, where in a single version, this would actually let a single person be able to complete the Pokedex. Because there's something else you could also do that would be a really cool, unique bookend.
Just say the thing, because we need to...
I know we need to... What's the one other Pokemon that could justify that you could completely justify getting, like, caught in this nonsense.
Another crying on him.
There you go. But the opposite version one.
Yes.
So you could catch both in a single game. Meaning this would be the first Pokemon game that literally, now, buying multiple DLC, I got it because I'm about to end off. I just wanted to finish this thought. And I agree with people that if you're paying for an extra DLC to do this, that I deserve to be able to 100% the Pokedex in a single game. And you would no longer need to trade, because this would also let you jump around and get like version exclusives and stuff, and scattershot your Paradox Pokemon and an extra legendary. And any other little features they wanted to add could also be tossed into this. And if you have like a rusty bottle cap or something, or like a negative bottle cap, that could just be tossed into one of the timelines. Because the final point to end off, because there's something else that this would also be really good for. I'm going to say this and then end. And it's the other thing that people wanted, where if you're jumping around timelines and realities, that we could also take a lot of the other regional variants, and because you're jumping around timelines and realities, that you could actually evolve certain Pokemon that have a base form. Like, we're jumping around through time and shit. I can take like a Pikachu and get like a sync point where if I go to this one time zone, you get like an Alolan area.
Isn't that what Sun and Moon did for the Ultra Space? So was
kind of.
If you evolve,
if you are in a wormhole, you're not in. Oh, goddammit. Final point. If you take a Pikachu in Alola that you caught in Alola and evolve it with Thunderstone, and evolve it with a Thunderstone, it becomes Alolan Raichu. But if you take a Pikachu that you caught in Alola, go through a wormhole, and you stand on the ground inside of a wormhole and use a Thunderstone, it becomes regular Raichu. You've left Alola. So, they've already... This is why I was finishing this thought. You've already had the ability to do this in past games. And people said this would make the end of the game really coherent to let you get everything in a Pokemon game without trading. Which I do think would be a great book end for people that only have one version. Especially if you have to pay another like $30. But with that said, Carson walked off. I took the controller. This has been basically Pokemon Violet. Other miscellaneous updates will come and go. We'll also do Casual Chaos. Carson can do some recordings. But with all that said, other than those miscellaneous updates, the Let's Play is basically over. So I hope you all enjoyed the main Let's Play. And I hope I will see you all next time. So, as always, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, everybody. I hope you'll come back someday. See you later. It's time for the question of the day and my overall thoughts on the topic. So, anyway, since the Switch 2 is going to upgrade the Pokemon games for free and basically fix up their frame rate and overall performance, are any of you more interested in returning to these games on the Switch 2? I thought I would ask about that. Since I didn't really have any other topics of discussion, I thought this would be a fun topic to talk about, because a lot of people basically stopped playing these games or never played them at all because of the frame rate and performance So I would love to know if the free Switch 2 upgrades are enticing enough for you to go back to these games, since a lot of people were interested in checking these games out after the upgrades are available. I would love to know how many of you are in that boat if you happen to be watching this and you happen to be a person that checked out of this generation or never joined this generation at all, entirely based on the frame rate and performance of these games, which was the case for a lot of people. So I ended up asking about that because, like I said, I thought this would be a fun topic of discussion, but I'm starting to repeat myself. You can leave your thoughts, opinions, and answers in the comments, or you can leave them on social media. All of my social media links, as well as my Discord links, are in the video description. Now, as always, I need to be a shill for a minute. If you subscribe to the channel, and if you follow me on social media, that really helps our communities grow. But anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I hope I will see you all next time. So, as always, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, everybody. I hope you come back someday. See you later.